Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Middleware Technologies. Today we are going to look at how we can use Jakarta Servlet API to build web applications. So here in this video, we will try to understand about Jakarta Servlet API and try to build a very basic servlet based application in order to generate OTP number. So here is the test environment that I am currently working on, wherein I have OpenJDK installed with the following version, and I have Eclipse Blastfish server that we are going to use to deploy the application onto the application server, and we have Maven that is going to be used to build and compile the application and deploy it onto the application server, and we have VS Code editor which we will be using to edit our code. Now let us try to understand what are web applications. Web applications are networking applications which are usually deployed onto web and application servers. So they are usually accessed through web browser or over a network. The advantage of web applications over desktop applications or mobile applications are they are platform independent. So that is the major advantage of web applications. So web applications can be considered as a client server applications, wherein the web application is deployed onto the client, is deployed onto the server, which is a web or app server, and the client is usually a browser from where the application is accessed. Now let us see what are the different types of web applications that we can build. So there are two types of web applications that we can build. One is presentation oriented application, the other one is service oriented application. Presentation oriented applications are wherein the end user is provided with a response in the form of HTML document. So that is the major difference between the presentation oriented application and the service oriented application. In service oriented application, the end user is provided, usually there is no end user, but let's say there is an application that is consuming the results of the service oriented application. So the usual response will be either a JSON or the XML data structure. So that is what the differentiation factor is between the presentation oriented application and the service oriented application. And the presentation oriented applications are usually built using Jakarta Faces technology in Java. And the service oriented applications, they can be built either using the Jakarta Servlet or Jakarta REST API technology. So these are the two differences between the presentation and the service oriented applications. Now let us try to understand the different technologies, that is Jakarta EE technologies, that are available for us to build web applications. So a web application usually consists of web components which can be built using the following three technologies. They are Jakarta Servlet, Jakarta Faces, and Jakarta REST API. Let us try to understand the Jakarta Servlet. So Jakarta Servlet is a specification that is provided by Jakarta EE to help us build the web applications. So it provides us with the set of APIs, or we can say it is a boilerplate code in order to convert our HTTP request and response to Java objects, that is HTTP servlet request and servlet response, and process those Java objects and provide a response to the end user. So Jakarta Servlet can be used to build both service oriented application and also the presentation oriented applications. Now let us take a look at Jakarta Faces. So Jakarta Faces is a component based model MVC framework API, wherein we are given with the flexibility to define our view separately from the business logic. So we have we can separate our view and the business logic or the code that is processing our input in the MVC like component based MVC framework. So so basically it intends to reduce the boilerplate code used to collect the request parameters, convert and validate them, update the bean properties with them, and invoke bean methods and generate HTML object as response. So these are all different things that we can do with Jakarta Faces on the client side, which is an advantage that we get over the Servlet API. Now let us try to understand about Jakarta REST. So Jakarta REST is used to build service-oriented application. It provides us with the boilerplate code to map the request parameters with the backend beans and generate response in the structure format. So as I said, the only difference between the servlet and the REST, major difference we can say, is the response format, and the response format in Jakarta REST is either the JSON or the XML structure, which is conceived by another servlet service oriented application or the presentation oriented application to provide a end user view to the user. So these web applications, so whatever these web technologies are implemented by a runtime such as application server. Okay, so the application server that we are currently using for this demo is the Glassfish application server, and this application server has the implementation for these technologies in the servlet and portlet containers. And the web application components that we build are deployed onto these containers, and they can be configured using annotation or XML deployment descriptors. So there are two ways we can configure. One is annotation and the other one is XML deployment descriptor. And the applications that are configured with the deployment descriptor take precedence over the configuration defined using annotations. So if we have configuration available at the deployment descriptor level and annotation level, so deployment descriptor level takes precedence over the annotation one. Now let us try to understand about the high level architecture that we are going to implement in this demo. So we have a Glassfish application server, on top of which we have a servlet container, under which we are going to deploy the web app components. Whenever there is a client sends a request such as HTTP request, this HTTP request is converted into HTTP servlet request by the container, and the request is served by the web component. And every web component that we deploy onto a web container is mapped to a particular URL pattern, and this is done using some kind of annotation which we apply to a class, or we can provide the URL pattern in the web deployment descriptor, so that we will be looking in the practical demo. So once the HTTP servlet request object is processed by the web component, it generates a Java response in the HTTP servlet response, and this response is converted back to HTTP response and send it to the client. So this is the high level architecture that we are going to implement in this video. Now let us go into our procedure to implement this application in this video. So as a first step, we need to ensure that we have the following prerequisites installed. So we have Java, that is JDK installed. Let me go to my shell, and this is the version that I have installed on my machine. And we need to have Maven installed in order to build, compile and deploy the application. and we need to download and install the Glassfish application server. If you do not have the Glassfish application server, you can download it and extract it and just do the configuration and run it. So let me start my Glassfish application server. So the default configuration for the Glassfish application server is without authentication, but you need to update your configuration property file with the username and password for the admin, so that can be used with the Maven to automatically deploy the application. So this is my Glassfish that is started up. So we can access it using the following URL. Now let us go to our next step, that is create a Maven Jakarta EE minimum project. So here, in order to build our web application, we will try to first generate a template, that is web application template using the Maven arch type. So we are going to run this command to generate our template. So this is Maven arch type generate, wherein we are providing the following arch type artifact ID Jakarta EE10 minimal, and this is the arch type group ID, and this is the arch type version, and our application group ID is going to be form.stack, and the artifact ID will be servlet demo. So let me try to generate this code or the template project. Let us go with the defaults, and the application is ready. Now let us let us go to that folder and remove the unnecessary files and folders that we do not need for this demo. So I am going to remove everything under the com stack servlet demo, and I am going to remove the resources folder in source main. So now we are going to open this code in VS Code editor. So now let us go to our next step, that is step 3, create generate OTP.java. So here, we are going to create a servlet class named generate OTP.java. This class must extend the Jakarta Servlet HTTP servlet class and override one of its method, that is do get, do post, or do put, like those methods. So here we are going to implement the do get method, wherein XSX represents the HTTP method of interest. Such a class which extends the Jakarta servlet's HTTP servlet class is known as a servlet. So here we are going to override the do get method of the HTTP servlet as shown below in this code. So the annotation that we are going to use over in this code is @webServlet. So this annotation is used to declare a servlet. Okay, so it is processed by the container at the deployment time, and the corresponding servlet is made available at the specified pattern. So with this annotation, we provide a URL pattern. So whenever we deploy this application, the servlet container identifies this web servlet with a particular URL pattern, and it is going to make it available at that URL pattern for the end user to consume. So now let us try to create our generate OTP.java. class, and let me copy all this code. So here are the imports that I am going to copy. So we are using the Jakarta Servlet APIs here. The HTTP servlets reside in the Jakarta Servlet.htdb, and the web servlet annotations reside in Jakarta Servlet annotations. Now let us try to copy this whole code. And update this class section. So as I said, in order for a class to be a servlet, it needs to extend HTTP servlet, and in order for a servlet container to identify the servlet, it needs to provide a URL pattern for that servlet using that annotation, or there is another way wherein we can provide this URL pattern, that is using the deployment descriptor, but that we are not going into this. We are not going to do this in this demo. And coming to this code, so this is basically a very basic code in order to generate a OTP number, which is either of any number of digits. Okay. So let us see, like this code has a set of characters from which the OTP number is going to be generated, and it uses a random object in order to generate a random integer. And here is the important part wherein, as I said, we need to override HTTP method. Here we are overriding the doGet method, and we are passing the HTTP request object and HTTP response object, and we are catching these exceptions, that is servlet exception and input output exceptions. So we need to provide the @override annotation to mention that we are overriding this doGet method. And here, like, we are going to capture the OTP length using the application URL pattern by sending it as a parameter, and when the OTP length is provided, it will be captured and it will be used to generate the OTP based on that length. Otherwise, like, the OTP length is going to be defaulted to 6, and it is going to generate a OTP number with 6 digits. So once the OTP number has been generated, it is going to create a response in the plain text format, and it is going to write, that is using response.getWriter.write, and it is going to write this string, which is a OTP which we have generated. So this is all the very basic code that does this OTP generation. Now let us go to our next step, that is step 4. Here, like, we need to update our pom.xml to refresh the Glassfish server wherein the Glassfish server is deployed, and we need to also update the plugins section to update the configuration related to the Glassfish server wherein we are going to deploy the application. So the default pom.xml, in the default pom.xml, we are going to define this property or update this property, wherein we are providing the location of the Glassfish server there wherein it is deployed. And now, like, we are going to update the build plugins. So we are going to use this plugin, that is cargo plugin, in order to deploy the application automatically to the Glassfish server. So I'll take this whole section of the plugin and copy it into the build plugin section, plugin section. So here, like, if you see the configuration, this is the configuration that we are going to use in order to identify our Glassfish server. So it has a domains folder, that is the home directory for our instance, that is domain 1, which we get by default for the Glassfish application server. Now let us go to our documentation, and the next step, that is step 5, is to build and deploy the application. So once we have our application code updated and the component XML is updated, we are ready to build the package and deploy it to the application server. So here I am going to open the new terminal, and we are going to do a clean build, package the application and deploy it using the cargo :deploy. So our application is deployed. Let us try to validate it. So the next step, that is step 6, is validating the application. So once we have the application deployed and running on the Glassfish application server, there are two ways we can validate it. One using the default URL pattern, and the other one is by passing a parameter, that is the OTP length. So here, we will use this for loop, that is a bash script, in order to generate OTP. So OTP number of default length, that is 6. So here we are going to generate 5 OTP numbers using this curl request to generate OTP, and by default the servlet demo, the application name, is going to be the project name that will be taken as the context root. Okay, so now let us try to run this, and it is going to generate our 6-digit OTP number. So let's say if you want to generate OTP number with OTP length different other than 6 digit, we need to pass this parameter, that is OTP length is equal to, so let's say I am going to generate a 10-digit OTP number, so it is going to be 10. So this is how we will be able to generate our OTP number using this very basic servlet. So here we have seen how we can use the Jakarta Servlet API specifications, and we have seen what are the methods or the classes that we need to we need to extend and override in order to implement our basic application based on the Servlet API. So that is all I wanted to show you in this video. Thank you all. Thanks for watching this video, and you guys have a great day.